Hi Pelicans, this is Miss Carol and today we are going to be picking up on our book, Flora and Ulysses. Please turn to page 194. We're going to begin on chapter 58, okay? So page 194, chapter 58. This chapter is titled Nothing Personal. It was dark, very, very dark, and there was the smell of smoke. Flora's mother had him in a sack, and the sack was flung over her back, and she was walking somewhere, and it was very, very dark. At the last minute, Flora's mother had picked up a piece of paper with his poem on it and threw it into the sack along with him. Was this meant as kindness? Was she mocking him? Or was she merely covering her tracks? The squirrel didn't know, but he held the crumpled ball of paper to his chest and tried to comfort himself. He thought, worse things have happened to me. He tried to think of what they were. There was the time that the pickup truck had ran over his tail. That hurt very much. There was also the incident with the BB gun, and the teddy bear, and the garden hose, the slingshot, the bow and rubber arrow. But everything that had happened before paled in comparison to this because there was so much more to lose now. Flora and her round and lovable head. Cheese puffs, poetry, giant donuts. Shoot! He was going to leave the world without ever having tried a giant donut. And Tootie! Tootie had said that she was going to read poetry out loud to him. That would never happen now, either. It was very dark in the sack. It was very dark everywhere. I'm going to die, thought the squirrel. He hugged his poem closer, and the paper crackled inside. This is nothing personal, This is nothing personal, Mr. Squirrel, said Flora's mother. Ulysses had held himself very still. He found this sentiment difficult to believe. It really has nothing to do with you, said Flora's mother. It's about Flora, Flora Belle. She is a strange child, and the world is not kind to the strange. She was strange before, and she's stranger now. Now she walks around with a squirrel on her shoulder, talking to a squirrel, talking to a typing flying squirrel. Not good at all. Was Flora strange? He supposed so. But what's wrong with that? She was strange in a good way. She was strange in a lovable way. Her heart was so big. It was so capacious. It was like George Buckman's heart. Do you know what I want? Said Flora's mother. Ulysses couldn't imagine. I want things to be normal. I want a daughter who is happy. I want her to have friends who aren't squirrels. I don't want her to end up unloved and all alone in the world, but it doesn't matter, does it? It does matter, thought Ulysses. It's time to do what needs to be done, said Flora's mother. She stopped walking. Uh-oh, thought Ulysses. Chapter 59, Destination Unknown. Tootie was driving, if that's what you wanted to call it. She didn't have her hands at 10 o'clock and 2. She did have a hand at any clock. Basically, Tootie drove with one finger on the wheel. Flora's father would have been appalled. They were in the front seat, all four of them, Tootie, Mary, Ann, Flora, and William Spiver. They were speeding down the road. It was alarming and exhilarating to be going so fast. So your plan is to effect an exchange, said William Spiver. The lamp for the squirrel? Yes, said Flora. But, and please correct me if I'm wrong, we have no idea where the squirrel and your mother are. Flora hated the phrase, correct me if I'm wrong. In her experience, people only said it when they knew they were right. Ulysses, Tootie shouted out her open window. Ulysses. Flora could see the squirrel's name, Ulysses, flying out of the car and into the night. A single beautiful word that was immediately swallowed up by the wind and the darkness. Her heart clenched. Why hadn't she told the squirrel she loved him? So I see a little picture. They're all in the car. I hate to be the voice of reason, said William Spiver. Don't be then, said Flora. But here we are, speeding down the road. And we are speeding, aren't we, Great Aunt Tootie? Surely we are exceeding the posted speed limit. I don't see a posted speed limit, said Tootie. She hollered Ulysses' name again. In any case, said William Spiver, it seems that we are going extremely fast. And we are speeding where exactly? We don't know. We aren't en route to an unknown destination, calling out the name of a missing squirrel all the while. It doesn't seem to be one bit rational. Well, what's your idea? Said Flora. What's your plan? We should try to think where your mother would have taken him. We should be logical, methodical, scientific. Ulysses, shouted Tootie. Ulysses, shouted Flora. Saying his name won't make him appear, said William Spiver. But saying William Spiver's name over and over made him appear. This, Flora knew from Terrible Things Can Happen to You, was magical thinking or mental causation. According to Terrible Things, it was a dangerous way to think. It was also a dangerous way to allow yourself to believe what you said directly influenced the universe, but sometimes it did, didn't it? Do not hope, Flora thought. She couldn't help it. She did hope. She was hoping. She had been hoping all along. Ulysses, she shouted. The car slowed down. What now? Said William Spiver. We have spotted something squirrel-related? Tootie used a single finger on the steering wheel and the car to steer the car to the side of the road. Let me guess, said William Spiver as they coasted to a stop. We've run out of gas. We've run out of gas, said Tootie. Oh, the symbolism, said William Spiver. What Flora had wondered, had she ever thought that William Spiver would be able to help her? Why had she thought of him as her safe port to a storm? Was it because he held her hand in that stupid hand? Was it because he had held her stupid hand in the stupid dream, or was it because he never shut up or could give up on the idea that he might actually say something at some point that was meaningful, helpful? Talk about some magical thinking. Where are we now? Flora said to Tootie. I'm not entirely certain, said Tootie. Great, said William Spiver. We're lost. Not that we knew where we were going to begin with. We'll have to walk, said Tootie. Obviously, said William Spiver, but walk where? Chapter 60. He was Ulysses. They were in the woods. He could tell by the smell of pine resin and the trees and the sound of pine needles crunching underfoot. Also, there was the powerful, extremely pervasive scent of raccoon. Raccoons owned the night, and raccoons were truly terrifying creatures, more brutal than even cats. This will do, said Flora's mother. She stopped. She put the sack down on the ground, and then she opened it and shone a bright light on Ulysses. He clutched his poem to his chest and stared at the light as bravely as he could. Give me that, said Flora's mother. She pulled the paper out of his paws. She threw it on the ground. Would she never tire of fighting his words away? This is the end of the road, Mr. Squirrel, she said. She put the flashlight on the ground. She picked up a shovel, the shovel, and heard Flora's voice saying, Remember who you are. The squirrel turned and sniffed his tail. He thought about when Flora had shown him the picture of Alfred T. Slipper in his janitor uniform and how Alfred had been transformed into the bright light that was Incadesto. The words from the poem that Tootie had recited rose up inside of him. Flared up like flame and make big shadows. He wasn't a stone squirrel. Then in the pictures he jumps out of the bag. Flora's mom goes, Arg and eek! He was Ulysses. And then he flies off after a little bit of a struggle. Chapter 61. I want to go home. You can navigate You can navigate by the North Star, supposedly. Moss grows on the north side of trees, or so they say. If you are lost in the woods, you should stay where you are and someone will come and find you. Maybe. These were the things that Flora had learned about being lost from reading Terrible Things Can Happen to You. Not that any of it was particularly relevant here. They weren't lost in the woods, they were lost in the universe, which, according to William Spiver, was expanding. How comforting. Ulysses, shouted Tootie. Ulysses, shouted Flora. It's pointless, said William Spiver. Flora was carrying Marianne, and William Spiver was holding on to Tootie's shoulder. Flora hated to agree with William Spiver, but pointless seemed like an increasingly appropriate word. Her arms ached from carrying the little shepherdess. Her feet hurt. Her heart hurt. "Let's see," said Tootie, peering into the darkness. "That Bricknail Road up there, we're not truly lost." "I wish I could see," said William Spiver in a sad voice. "You can see," said Tootie. "Great Aunt Tootie," said William Spiver, "I am loath, as always, to point out the obvious, but I will do it here and now, for the sake of clarity. You are not me. You do not exist behind my traumatized eyeballs. I am telling the truth, my truth. I cannot see." "There's nothing wrong with you, William," said Tootie. "How many times do I have to tell you that?" "Why did she send me away, then?" said William Spiver. His voice shook. "You know why she sent you away." "I do?" "You can't just push somebody's truck into a lake," said Tootie. "It was a pond," said William Spiver. "A very small pond. More of a sinkhole, actually." "You cannot totally submerge someone's vehicle in a body of water," said Tootie in a very loud voice, "and expect that there are not going to be severe consequences." I did it in a fit of anger," said William Spiver. "I admitted almost immediately that it was a very unfortunate decision." Tootie shook her head. "You pushed the truck into a lake," said Flora. "How did you do that?" "I released the parking brake and I put the truck in drive, and That's enough," said Tootie. "We don't need to know how to push a truck into a lake at lecture." "Sinkhole," said William Spiver. "It was really a sinkhole." "Wow," said Florida. "Why did you do it?" "I was exacting my revenge upon Tyrone." William Spiver said William Spiver. "My name is William Spiver, not Billy. I was Billy one time too many, and I cracked. I pushed Tyrone's truck into the sinkhole, and when my mother found out, she was incandescent with rage. I looked upon her rage, and you know what happened then. I was blinded by disbelief and sorrow." He shook his head. "I am her son. She made me leave. She sent me away." Even in the darkness, Flora could see the tears crawling out from underneath William Spiver's dark glasses. "I want to be called William Spiver," he said. "I want to go home." Flora felt her heart lurch inside her. "I want to go home." It was one of William Spiver's sad, beautiful sentences. "But will you return?" "I came looking for you." "I want to go home." Flora realized she wanted to go home too. She wanted things to be the way they were before she was banished. She put Marianne down on the ground. "Give me your hand," she said. "What?" said William Spiver. "Give me your hand," said Flora again. "My hand? Why?" Flora reached out and grabbed a hold of William Spiver's hand and held on to her. It was as if he were drowning and she was standing on solid ground. According to terrible things, drowning people were desperate out of their minds with fear. In their panic, they could pull you, the rescuer, under if you weren't careful. So Flora held on tightly to William Spiver, and he held on tightly back. It was just like her dream. She was holding William Spiver's hand, and he was holding hers. "Well, if you two are going to walk around holding hands," said Tootie, "I suppose I'll have to be the one who carries this monstrosity of a lamp." She picked up Marianne. Above them, the stars were brilliant, shining brighter than Flora had ever seen them shine. "I wish my father were here," said William Spiver. He wiped at the tears on his face with his free hand. An image of Flora's father, hands in his pockets, hat on, smiling and saying, "Holy Bagumba," in the voice of Dolores, rose up in Flora's mind. Her father, she loved him. She wanted to see his face. "I know where we should go," said Flora. Chapter 62, Atop a Giant Donut. So, the first little picture says, "A superhero flew over the sleeping world. The world was beautiful, and he was alive. There sure are a lot of houses. They do look alike. Also, the superhero was lost. Flora?" As he's looking for her. "Here I am sitting on the top of a giant donut. I wish Flora were here with me." "Flora!" It's all the little pictures. Comic strip. All right. Oh, now we're on chapter 63, titled Little Fishes. A squirrel flies in, said Mr. Miskam. This I did not expect at all. It is what I love about life. Things that happen which I do not expect. When I was a little girl in Blundermachine, we left the window open for this very reason, even in the winter. We did it because we believed something wonderful might make its way to us through the open window. Did wonderful things find us? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. But tonight it has happened, something wonderful. Dr. Miskam clapped her hands. A window has been left open. A squirrel flies in the window. The heart of an old woman rejoices. Ulysses' heart rejoiced too. He wasn't lost anymore. Dr. Miskam, would help him find Flora. Also, Dr. Miskam might make him a jelly sandwich. Imagine, said Dr. Miskam. Imagine if I had been sleeping, what I would have missed. But then, always and forever, I have been an insomniac. Do you know what it is, insomnia? Ulysses shook his head. It means I do not sleep. When I was a girl in Blundermachine, I did not sleep. Who knows why? It could be some existentially terror related to the trolls. It could be simply because I do not sleep. Sometimes there are no reasons. Often, most of the time, there are no reasons. The world cannot be explained. But I talk too much. I digress. I need to say to you, why are you here? And where is your Florabelle? Ulysses looked at Dr. Miskam. He made his eyes very big. If only there were some way to tell her that everything had happened. Flora's mother saying that life would be easier without her, the universe expanding, William Spiver's banishment, Flora's homesickness, the writing of his poem, the typing of the untrue words, the stone squirrel, the sack of the woods, the shovel. The squirrel was overwhelmed by everything there was to say, and in his inability to say it, he looked down at his front paws. He looked back up at Dr. Miskam. Ah, she said, there is too much to say. You do not know where to begin. Ulysses nodded. Perhaps it would be a good idea to deal with a little snack. Ulysses nodded again. When the other Dr. Miskam was alive and I could not sleep, do you know what he would do for me? This man would put on his slippers and he would go into the kitchen and he would fix for me sardines and crackers. You know sardines? Ulysses shook his head. Little fishes in a can. He would put those little fishes on a cracker for me, and then I would hear him coming back down the hallway carrying the sardines and humming, returning to me. Dr. Miskam sighed. Such tenderness to have someone get out of bed and bring you little fishes and sit with you as you eat them in the dark of night. To hum to you, this is love. Dr. Miskam wiped her eyes. At her eyes, she smiled to Ulysses. So, she said, I will make for you what my beloved made for me, sardines on crackers. Does this seem like a good thing? Ulysses nodded. It seemed like a very good thing. We will eat, because this is important to eat. And then, even though it is in the middle of the night, we will go knock on the door of Mr. George Buckman. And he will open the door to us because he is capacious of heart, and George Buckman and I will figure out why you are here and where our Florabelle is. Ulysses nodded. Dr. Miskam went to the kitchen, and the squirrel sat on the windowsill and looked out into the dark world. Flora was out there somewhere. He would find her. She would find him. They would find each other. And then he would write her another poem. This one would be about the little fishes and humming in the dark of the night. So, thank you so much, boys and girls. I cannot wait to see what happens at the end of this book. I know you are loving it. I am loving it. I am laughing as I'm reading it. So I cannot wait to see you all when school starts. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Until next time, bye.